and today I will speak about endometrial cancer. And actually for adjuvant therapy recommendations for endometrial cancer. And all of doctors know that the best treatment for endometrial cancer in the first time is the surgery, radical hysterectomy. But what we have to do after hysterectomy, and which type we have, and what adjuvant therapy we have to apply. This question is not so easy, and several randomized trials were done for determining what indications we have to apply in each case of the endometrial cancer. So, endometrial cancer is we know that they have the better prognostic than cervical cancer. And in my speech, I will show you very quickly some characteristics, which is risk factors, and one of important risk factors is the obesity, which is an important factor for carcinogenesis and estrogen-dependent type of endometrial cancer. So, in this paper which was published many years ago, authors showed that in endometrial cancer is most frequent cancer in the woman which have the 5 kilograms per meter quadrat increase in body mass index and were strongly associated to endometrial cancer. And we have also in this cancer the very rich histology heterogeneous types, which is but the most presented type is endometrial adenocarcinoma, and the second is the serous carcinoma, and the mucinous and the clear cell uterine sarcomas. They are about the 4 or 1% of them. And in this slide you can see the very big difference between the different types of the type. So this paper very interesting because it was published in the Nature in 2013 and were analyzed 3,073 endometrial carcinoma patients, and was determined the different genes mutations regarding to type of endometrial cancer or also subtypes of endometrial cancer. In this slide, you can see they presented the different genes mutations regarding to the type of endometrial cancers or also histological determinations. So you can see that in the type 1, what have a best prognostic, we have presented the KRAS mutation and also a RIDE1 mutation, and this is TP53 mutation is very rare. And so, and other types of cancer, for example, the carcinosarcoma, clear cell cells, they are presented other genes mutations. So, in this slide, you can see that depending of the type of the endometrial carcinoma, we have the different prognostic. So for the type 1, this is good prognostic, and for type 2, this is poor prognostic. So now we use the FIAGO classification determined in 2009. And what is interesting in this classification, we have to pay the attention to the stage 1 and to stage 2, because for the advanced stage, which is the 3C and 4 stage, we usually use very extensive adjuvant therapy, which radiotherapy with chemotherapy. But the questions of interest in this group because we always have the doubt which therapy we have to act with. The prognostic factors, you know, the age grade, and we have to pay attention is to this factor, which is a lymphovascular space invasion. Is a very important factor for determining the grade of the risk, and you can see the presence of lymphovascular invasions. They increase the presence of metastasis. So in this slide we can see that depending the grade and also depth of myometrial invasion and presence of lymphovascular invasion significantly increase of risk. So this is very interesting because regarding to this slide, I will talk about the different recommendations for any type or depending on the risk group. So we will talk about the low risk. Remember please, the low risk is stage 1 endometrial and less than 50% of myometrial invasion, and also lymphovascular invasion is negative. In the group of intermediate risk is divided to two groups, low intermediate and high intermediate risks. But this group of intermediate risk take into the one stage, but for two different stages. So in the one, we have the more than 50% of myometrial invasion and lymphovascular invasion is absent. But in the second group, we have the G3 and maybe less of the 50% of myometrial invasion, but it's not important because we have yet the very important factor, which is the grade, the G3. So the high risk is the stage 1. Independent of the stage, we have the G3 and also more than 50% of myometrial invasion, regardless of lymphovascular status. Stage 2 and stage 3 endometrial residual disease, and also serous or clear cell carcinoma. And how we have to manage by risk in each patient, what type of radiotherapy we have to offer. So in the low to intermediate risk of endometrial carcinoma, was down the several randomized trials. Is the important trials for this is FORTEC-1, and you know very well, in which were compared two groups, pelvic radiotherapy versus observation. Also, GOG-99 take the two groups into this study. And they done also pelvic radiotherapy versus observation. And what shown these studies? So, FORTEC-1 demonstrated that no difference in overall survival. Of course, the radiotherapy shown less vaginal metastasis in this group against observation, and less locoregional relapse. But the failure-free survival, the overall survival shown no difference in between these groups. So regarding to this study, the management of low-risk endometrial cancer is stage 1 endometrial carcinoma, G1, 2, less than 50% myometrial invasion, a very important factor, lymphovascular invasion, negative, no adjuvant treatment. So, management of intermediate risk. Intermediate risk, the pure intermediate risk is very difficult to divide. So, in this group, we take the low intermediate risk or high intermediate risk. It's important because the follow adjuvant treatment is depending of these subgroups. So, the FORTEC-2 analyzed the big group of patients and divided in two groups. In the one of group received an external beam radiotherapy, and other group only vaginal brachytherapy. You can see here the schemes, the uplift to these graphs. So the primary endpoint was vaginal recurrence. So the results. In vaginal recurrence, between vaginal brachytherapy and external beam therapy, no difference. In local regional relapse, in 5 years follow-up, the vaginal brachytherapy showed more relapse than external beam radiotherapy. But no difference in distal metastasis, no difference in overall survival, and big difference in gastrointestinal toxicity. And vaginal brachytherapy shown less toxicity than external beam radiotherapy. So, conclusion. Management of intermediate risk, the option 1, adjuvant brachytherapy, is recommended to decrease vaginal recurrence. And also exists option 2, nothing. No adjuvant treatment is an option. But pay attention, this may be indicated for especially for patients aged less than 16 years. Of the recommendation option 1, we have level of evidence 1, it's very important, and option 2, also we have level of evidence 2. So, management of high intermediate risk endometrial cancer. What happened in these samples? We're down the several randomized trials which compared radiotherapy versus chemotherapy, chemotherapy versus radiotherapy plus chemotherapy, and radiotherapy versus radiotherapy plus chemotherapy. So the Japanese trial, Italian GOG 122, GOG 258, and in this group they are reported Finnish, also North Society Gynecology group with AOTC and 43. Results. In all the trials, relapse was equal. And also relapse-free survival was equal, but in 2 trials, which was GOG 122 and Nordic Society, chemotherapy shown the increase of the survival. But in this trial, it's not so strongly statistically significant. So, conclusions in these risk groups, we have to pay attention, also divided in 2 groups. If was the surgical nodal staging performed or not. If we have node-negative patients, so adjuvant brachytherapy is recommended to describe vaginal recurrence. If we have not the surgical nodal staging, it's very important. We have to pay attention to the presence to lymphovascular invasion. In the case, if the lymphovascular invasion is positive, we have to perform an external beam radiotherapy. And adjuvant brachytherapy alone is recommended for grade 3 and lymphovascular invasion negative patients. And systemic therapy, such as chemotherapy, it's not show the certain benefit. So undergo the clinical studies. Level of evidence is 3. And now we have to manage the high-risk endometrial cancer. This study is very interesting. It's the long follow-up results was announced in the past ASTRO by Marcus Rendell. In this study, were compared 2 groups. In the one group, they included the patients treated by pelvic radiotherapy. In the second group, treated by vaginal brachytherapy plus chemotherapy. So, what's happening? In the group of the external radiotherapy, the results was better. The conclusions was the adjuvant pelvic radiation should remain the standard of care for high-risk, early-stage endometrial cancer patients. Into the high risk also we divided by stage. Stage 1, stage 2, and stage 3. And the adjuvant therapy approach is different also regarding this part. And we pay attention always also if we have the surgical nodal staging or we have not the surgical nodal staging. In this case, and you remember the stage 1 endometrium, G3, more of the 50 millimeter elevation, and regardless of lymphovascular invasion status, adjuvant external beam radiotherapy is considered for discrete to the regional recurrence. And adjuvant brachytherapy may be considered an alternative treatment. If we have not surgical nodal staging, we have to perform external beam radiotherapy and chemotherapy. So, and the management for risk stage 2 endometrial cancer is recommended external beam radiotherapy. In the grade 1-2, lymphovascular image negative, maybe we can perform vaginal brachytherapy for improved local control. But in the 2 types of recommendations, level of evidence is 3. So if we have, after the simple hysterectomy, no surgical nodal staging, we have to perform external beam radiotherapy. And in the cases of grade 3 or presenting lymphovascular invasion, together to external radiotherapy, we have to add also sequential adjuvant chemotherapy. So what's happened in the case, the high risk endometrial cancer, in which treatment was added chemotherapy also to pelvic radiation therapy. The PORTEC-3 analyzed the group of high-risk patients, and in two arms was included. Only for the first group, only pelvic radiotherapy, and for the second group, pelvic radiotherapy with concurrent chemotherapy. So, results. In the high group risk, but stage 1 and 2, it was not statistically significant difference. But for the stage 3 endometrial carcinoma, chemotherapy significantly improved the 5-free survival, and the difference is the 11%. So the management for high-risk stage 3 endometrial cancer is external beam radiotherapy, and for the 3A, 3B, 3C, external beam radiotherapy and chemotherapy. And for the serous and clear cell, after comprehensive staging, is also considered as high-risk endometrial cancer. Stage 1A and the lymphomascular invasion negative, we can consider vaginal brachytherapy, only without chemotherapy. And the more advanced stage, external beam radiotherapy. And the carcinosarcoma and differentiated tumors, we have to apply chemotherapy and consider also external beam radiotherapy. And what is the future directions? A new PORTEC 4A study design is focused on molecular integrated treatment standard versus standard indication for adjuvant treatment. So this study is now open, and they take the stage 1, stage 2 also. The group of patients will be randomized to 2 groups, and individual treatment recommendation based on molecular pathology analysis, a standard treatment recommendation based on clinical pathology factors. And we will see what happens. So, thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Maya. I don't know the name of your father.
It's very difficult for me. I tried to learn it. I wrote it in Arabic, in English, but he couldn't do it. So it's not my fault.
I think Maya will do the trick. Any questions? Okay.
Yes, because this question is now so clear. Because the surgeon, the classical is hysterectomy, maybe something of the second, but it's not all the institutions perform the nuclear dissection. Yes. Not extended leads. Yes, it will be considered quadratic or not. Because if we have primary plus hospitalization, may be considered external therapy added by brachytherapy. In this case, yes. But generally, the added to brachytherapy increases the toxicity. So if you don't have yes, extra.
We found it very difficult to complete the chemotherapy after.
Yes.
So do you recommend doing it before chemotherapy?
No, in this study it's not clear. Radiotherapy was chemotherapy, after that chemotherapy. Because
the
you
second
have the
part is
discussion
very
with
my
but yes, yes, but in
This is where you come, you know where the border is set. Like that, like this.
The 3 cycles after
chemotherapy.
No,